That's right, everybody. It's another football episode of Tap Outs and Touchdowns. As always, it's your guy, Bully Ryan, alongside me for all the football shows, wrestling show co-host, Banker Bill.
I'm not the
Bill,
wrestling show co-host. I'm
you're
the
not the wrestling
football show
co-host.
co-host. And the foot. Oh, you're
You know
getting me
what?
all confused after our crossover.
You know what? That's what threw me off. We had this tremendous crossover episode that we recorded last night. It will go on YouTube as long as YouTube will allow it. And it'll go to all the podcast platforms. But it was, I think we all agreed last night that it was one of the most fun episodes that we've ever done.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'll give it that. Like it was pretty fun. But I learned a little bit. I still don't like wrestling, but it was interesting. It was good.
Oh, you still don't like wrestling?
I can't do it, man.
You got so excited watching Kevin Green body slam. It was
fairly entertaining, but would I do that versus doing other things? No.
We'll get you there. We're gonna introduce you to some more pro wrestling because we've got another episode that we're gonna do a crossover like that with Banker Bill and PJ Stevens somewhere down the road. Real quick, if you're watching with us live, make sure you leave comments in the thread in the chat so we can read them live on the air. We love the fan participation, the audience participation, and we've already got it from co-host PJ Steven. Best episode ever that we recorded.
It truly was.
We had a great time. We're going to shift gears because we are in week 0 of college football. We are just over 2 weeks away from the start of the NFL season. We've got preseason week 3 that we're going to get to in the second half of this show. But the first half of the show, we're gonna talk some college football, more specifically what it takes to win the Heisman Trophy. Now, background for this segment, Banker Bill and I recorded like 2-3 weeks ago, and we got off the air, and we just started rolling with this conversation about what it would take for my homer cornerback, Spencer Rattler, to win the Heisman Trophy. Right. And Bill, right then and there, started doing some research. And we both were immediately, why didn't we save this for the show?
Well, we had a bit of a litmus test, right? We had a quarterback that kind of came out of, we'll call it obscurity, where he wasn't expected to do what he did, and he blew the doors off of college football, and truly blew the doors off of college football, and won the Heisman going away. Unanimous, absolutely unanimous decision. Best season for a quarterback in the history of college football. And I can say that with confidence now because I did the research and found out all of the seasons since 1985, what quarterbacks have done. And Joe Burrow was absolutely, and that's the litmus test is Joe Burrow. But actually, Ryan, I'm gonna have to back up on that after our conversation because I've now done the research. We now can say there's a lot more, I guess, information out there that we can now say probably with more confidence what somebody would have to do to actually win the Heisman after not having a good season last season.
Yeah, listen, in the history of the Heisman Trophy, there have been 85 winners. There's only one 2-time winner of the Heisman Trophy. We talked about it, and when you go and listen to our crossover episode, the first ever Heisman Trophy to be given back to the university was from Steve Spurrier at the University of Florida. Right. And from then on, the presenters of the Heisman Trophy gave out 2 trophies every year, one to the university and one to the actual individual player. So, again, some really, really fun stuff here to talk about. Again, if you're watching live, be it the YouTube channel, be it facebook.com/tapoutsandtouchdowns, let us know what you think about the Heisman Trophy. Who should have won it in years that they didn't? Who were your favorite Heisman Trophy winners? Was it Reggie Bush in 2004 that is no longer with Reggie Bush? Give us your thoughts on the Heisman Trophy, your favorite players, or college football in general. We'll read your responses live on the air.
You're going to see me look to the right, Ryan, as we're doing this, because that's where I have a second monitor. That's my list is on that second monitor. So every time I look to the right, that's me checking different statistics and players and stuff. So I'm excited about this. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So the original conversation took place because we had to think about the fact that Spencer Rattler, again, as the homer that I am, is such an underdog to win the Heisman Trophy. He's coming off of the season.
Actually know I found the odds as well. So you want to call him an underdog? Yeah. I can tell you exactly where he is in the odds.
What are the odds for Spencer Rattler to win the Heisman Trophy this season?
I'm not a betting man. I don't do that. But so they have the number next to it. Maybe you can clarify. So Caleb Williams is your odds-on favorite, and you can say that, and he's plus 400. So how does that work? Do you know?
Basically, I think you I
Bet
wish you would come in the chat and better explain it.
400, is that kinda how that works?
Something like that, yeah. Like, you bet $400 to win one or something like that. Like,
So
that's
it's probably like 40 to 1. No, it's probably like 4 to 1. It's probably like $100 and you win
something like
400.
that.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
like
So
that,
he's
yeah.
maybe it's not, I don't know. It doesn't matter, right? So he's plus 400. That's gonna be your top odds person, okay? Your boy Spencer Rattler sitting in 29th. I did
Yeah.
the top 30. I got the top 30. He's 29th at 8,000 plus 8,000. So is that 800 to 1, 8,000 to 1? I have no idea.
Real quick, a comment coming in the chat. Aaron, my best friend from Carolina Business with Aaron Thompson chimes in. He drafted your boy
Okay.
Tua Tagovailoa in the
I'm
fantasy
good with
draft
that.
tonight.
I'm good with that. I did
So,
not get him in my first fantasy draft. I did not. I did
hey,
get, however, Ryan's boy, Jared Goff.
well, and that's Aaron's guy too. Aaron's a
Okay.
Lions fan.
I ended up
So
with Jared Goff as my backup.
your dad hops into the chat. Bill Senior Theismann from Notre Dame should have won the Heisman in 1970.
Back in
Far
our
back.
research, though. Yeah.
But yeah. So the idea was Spencer Rattler coming off. Let's just say we're going to call him a quarterback like Spencer Rattler is coming off a season where for the first half of the season, some South Carolina fans, myself included, we're ready to move on. Like, this is a bad experiment. It's not working. Let's see Luke Doty. Let's see somebody else. And then the Tennessee game comes around, and he throws for ungodly amounts of yards,
Like 6 touchdowns.
6 touchdowns,
Yeah.
torches the University of Tennessee, and then comes back and beats Clemson the following week. So Aaron wants me to remind you that I'm a Lions fan because of Aaron.
That's terrible. That's
the
terrible.
actual,
Why did you do that to that man? That's awful.
listen, the actual story was that I told everybody that if the Carolina Panthers drafted Cam Newton, I couldn't root for him. I had to pick a second team. I remember when I was a kid, my favorite football player ever was
And you picked the Lions?
the great Barry Sanders. This was a time when it was Matt Stafford and Calvin Johnson. At the time, Jabba Best looked like he was going to be a tremendous running back, but concussion issues cut his career short. So I said, listen, who's going to be able to call me a bandwagon jumper if I go and root for the Lions? So I took on the Lions. Let's get back to college football here. A quarterback like Spencer Rattler, who had a terrible first half of the season, came back strong. You got to wonder, what does this guy have to do to be involved in the conversation? Step number 1, be on a really good football team. But step number 2, that's where I'm going to turn it over to Banker Bill. Because it would be a genuine surprise if a guy like Spencer Rattler came off the season last year to win the Heisman Trophy, a la Joe Burrow at LSU. So Bill's done some research about some prize winners since 1985, as well as we've got some deep dive information to go in as far as how Joe Burrow came from relative irrelevancy to winning the Heisman Trophy and having arguably the best season of a quarterback in college football history. So Bill, take it away, man.
I'm going to respond to 2 things very quickly. I just want to point out that John F. Kennedy has only missed 1 Detroit Lions playoff win. That's good for him, right? Just pointing that out. And I think it's Pat Sullivan.
Removed from the thread, removed from stream.
Pat Sullivan won the Heisman in 1971. So I don't know who that is. We've never heard of him. And Joe Theismann we have heard of. So unfortunately, here we go. It's the dark, Gary. There's no power here in South Carolina.
It's nighttime. It's hot outside. We're conserving energy and making sure our houses stay cool.
That's right.
Listen, so I've got a light. I don't know what you're talking about.
I could turn it on.
Yeah.
I mean, it could get brighter. Yeah. We actually this looks like sand. I should play Sandstorm. Play Sandstorm, right? We're in the stadium.
Yeah. We'll get into that later in the show too.
But good stuff. No, okay. So I went back to 1985, right? So the first person I ran into different players that obviously had really good, Heisman seasons, and then there are some that did not. There are some players that, when you look at their statistics, probably should not have won the Heisman, which is kind of scary, but they were on good teams. Those examples would be Vinny Testaverde, never really that good of a college quarterback. Tim Brown, Gino Torretta, what a disaster he was as a pro quarterback, and he was not even good as a college quarterback, but won the Heisman because he was on a good team in 1992. But the first player that came to right away, 1985, Bo Jackson. He had a fantastic senior season, 11 games, 278 carries, 1,786 yards, 17 touchdowns. But his prior season, 12 games, he got injured, but he only had 87 carries in those 12 games. Yeah.
That's hard to believe.
Something yeah, like, they just didn't play him. I'm not sure who he was playing with because 87 carries, 475 yards, 5 TDs, and the season before that, he had 11 games, 158 carries, 1,200 yards, and 158 carries. So
So
I don't
you
know
would
what
have to
happened.
you would have to believe based on those stats that nobody was expecting him to come out and win the Heisman that year.
Correct. Correct. Barry Sanders is another one. Barry Sanders played behind Thurman Thomas. You're wearing the jersey. Good. That's
Yeah.
perfect, actually.
Yeah. Let's
Um,
go. Let's
so
go.
Barry Sanders, his stats are disgusting. If you want to measure a I guess a season. Does he hold the record? He must hold the record for the most yards, most rushing yards in a season in college football. He must. I don't think I found one that was any higher. But it's
I
got to
can
be
look while you're talking because I don't remember.
344 carries, 2,628 yards, and 37 touchdowns on the ground.
Yeah,
His
I don't think
last
anybody's
year at
beating that.
Oklahoma State. Absolutely disgusting. Previous season, he played 11 games. They're both 11 game seasons. That's what they played back then. 105 carries, 603 yards, 9 touchdowns. Now, that is a lot to ask. He is probably the Joe Burrow of the running back, I guess the running back position, because that is a 344 carries is a lot by itself, but then also to get to 2,600 yards, just insane.
So
That's just
let's
an
let's
amazing
let's
thing.
fill in. We keep talking about Joe Burrow. We haven't really gotten to the story.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Joe Burrow. When we talk about coming from relatively unknown to
And this
winning
is
the
true
Heisman
too.
Trophy,
Like this is true unknown. Like he was a decent recruit to Ohio State. He didn't get to play there. I forget who he was playing behind or who he was playing behind.
was it
Justin Fields ended up taking it later,
was it
but
Not
it's the
Troy
whole
Smith. It
group.
wasn't that
Like
far back away.
Haskins, I think Haskins was one of them. There was a whole group of players that he was playing behind. Like what was the one that was not very? They're all not very good. They ended up not being good in the pros. But he ended
No,
up
yeah, none of
transferring
them
out
are.
of there to go to LSU. He did it, I think, in his sophomore season, sat down for the sophomore season, played in his junior season, and was not that good. And I have his stats. 13 games, he only completed 57.8% of his passes, 2,894 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Now, I remember watching him play and thought, LSU has a good quarterback. This kid just hasn't figured it out yet. He looked like he could throw, he was athletic, and he could move, but he absolutely went nuts, and nobody expected this. He went from 57.8 completion percentage to 76.3 in his senior season. He went from 2,894 yards to 5,671 yards, 60 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Absolute
60. Say that again.
insanity.
60 touchdowns.
Yep.
And 6 interceptions.
Yep.
For Joe Burrow the year that he wins the Heisman. That's unheard of.
Now, Bryce Young put together big stats 2 years ago. Now, Bryce Young stayed for his senior season, did not win the Heisman last year. But his junior season, he almost had 67% completion percentage. He had 4,872. Now, that's still 800 yards less than Joe Burrow in
Aaron,
the same amount of games.
I think Aaron's right. He was a junior.
Was he
I
a
think he's
junior
talking
that
about,
year? Okay.
yeah, he was a sophomore when he won it, sophomore the year that he won it, and then he still left as a junior.
I should have done that. I should have written
It
down
seems
what
like
year it was that they won.
it seems like he was around for a lot longer than he was. If we're going to be honest,
He was really around.
Yeah. But so the idea is that Joe Burrow, we saw,
but that's not fair.
Talent
I
there.
don't find that fair. Like you can't expect anybody to do what Joe Burrow did. There's no way Spencer Rattler. I mean, he also had like the triumvirate of receivers that he had. Terrence Marshall Jr. being the third worst. But we saw his other receiver that didn't even get on the field played in the XFL this year and was pretty freaking good. I forget his name now. Played for Vegas.
Yeah,
he got hurt. No, Texas or Houston. He played for Houston. And when he got hurt, their offense came to a screeching halt. He couldn't get on the field because he had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson there. And obviously that's going to help somebody like Joe Burrow, but not to the tune of like 800 yards more than Bryce Young, who had Devontae Smith. And I mean, I mean, it's crazy. So if you want to go to a similar comparison, I think you'd have to go all the way back to like Sam Bradford.
Okay.
So Sam Bradford in his, I want to say whatever his year prior to winning the Heisman, that's what we'll call it, because I have no idea where they were as a classman. 14 games, 69.5 completion percentage, 3,121 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Now, he was pretty good at throwing touchdowns. That's not bad. Not a ton of yards. Then the next season, he won the Heisman in the same amount of games. You were a lower completion percentage, 67.9, but he threw for 4,720 yards.
Ooh.
50 touchdowns, 8 interceptions.
Yep. That's a big spike.
Won him the Heisman and got him the number 1 overall draft pick. You go back as far to Jason White. Jason White for Oklahoma barely played. He played 2 years more. He played more 2 years before. This is 2003. 2 years before he won the Heisman. He had 7 games where he had 681 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The year before he won the Heisman, he only played in 3 games. He had 181 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. That's pretty bad. 3 games. And then his season that he won the Heisman, he ended up with 61.6% completion percentage, 3,846 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Now, you can see through the statistics. Now, you'll say, oh, that's not a whole lot of yards, right? A few years before that, Chris Winkie threw for 41, 67, 33, and 11. So there was passing game happening even when White. So I think it's going to come down to you've got a lot of really good players right now. Caleb Williams is still in college football. So if you want somebody like Spencer Rattler to win the Heisman, he literally has to blow the doors off everything. He has to make sure that his statistics are better in the SEC than Caleb Williams playing in the last year of the Pac-12.
I'd be interested to see how many of those guys who won the Heisman since 1985 played on teams that didn't compete for a national championship, or at least
got one for you.
Okay, let's hear it. Yeah.
Yeah. Andre Ware, 1989. You remember where he played?
Oh, that's a good Andre Ware.
Didn't he get drafted to your Lions? I think he did.
It wasn't. I was 2 years old in 1989. Okay.
Doesn't matter. You should still know the history. You should know how terrible your team has always been.
I swear to God.
I'm telling
you wanted to talk, man. You had one of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL history, and he never won a Super Bowl.
Went to a Super Bowl, didn't win a Super Bowl. But we also had the only undefeated season until you got another one in Madden about a week ago. But Andre Ware, 1989. You ready? Played in Houston. Didn't compete for the national championship. The year before he won his Heisman, he played 11 games, 59.6 completion percentage. He threw for 2,507 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. You ready for this? This is in 1989, remember. This is what this guy did in college. He had 11 games that he played. 63.1 completion percentage. He threw for 4,699 yards.
Wow.
In 11 games. 46 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Guy was an absolute gunslinger. Was a high draft pick of the draft because of it and won the Heisman in 1989. That's a passing game. That's a lot. And he did not do it the year before and did not compete for a national championship. Didn't have a good team.
If you're watching this live with us, make sure you go into this. First of all, thank you for joining us. Make sure you go into the comments wherever it is you're watching and tell us who you like to win the Heisman this year and who you would like to win the Heisman as far as who you think is going to win and who you would like to win the Heisman and maybe what they're going to have to do to get there.
And Bill, I have the top 30 odds too. If you're looking at a player and you want to know what the odds are,
let's go top 5 and let's break them down as far as the Heisman hopefuls in 2023. Let's start with number 5.
And I've got their last year's statistics for all 30.
Yeah, let's do it. So let's start with number 5.
Did a lot of research this week, Ryan.
Listen. That you. I'm glad that you came prepared. That's why I said this when off the air. I told you this is your baby. This is what you're going to do. The bottom line from the conversation that we've had so far is that in order to win the Heisman, to come from relative
sisters in the chat. Sorry, I'm saying hi.
Oh, sweet. Hey, there she is.
At least she's calling us gentlemen.
Yeah, I also, real quick, I have to give another shout out to Aaron. He said I should know that Barry Sanders leads the NCAA in rushing.
I agree, Aaron. I thought that was the case. Then he probably didn't remember who he played with in college or anything like that.
I've recorded 4 shows this week. I've had three or 4 conference calls. I'm a little brain fried, so forgive me for not knowing that off the top of my head. But the idea is that most people who are favorites to win the Heisman either won it last year or came close to winning it last year. It's very difficult to come from being relatively unknown and winning the Heisman, but based on what Bill laid out for everybody, it's happened.
It's possible.
Now, going into 2023, give us the 5th best odds for the player to win the Heisman.
All right, 5th best. This is crazy to me because I hate this team. Jordan Travis, quarterback, Florida State.
Hold on, Michelle Russell's in the chat. Hey, Michelle, appreciate you joining us tonight as well. Give us that name again.
Jordan Travis, and hey, Michelle. Jordan Travis, quarterback from Florida State. 1,200 to what? Plus 1,200. I don't know what that means. Somebody needs to tell me what that means.
Aaron, if you're still in here, explain what plus 1,200 is so we don't have to Google it because that would be very helpful. So Jordan Travis, the quarterback.
What does Michelle mean from the East Coast? She has to explain that in the chat.
Oh, she is. I believe she is visiting family up in Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. So, So she's watching East Coast time with us tonight. I don't understand how Florida State going. It's all based on
Okay,
$100.
Okay, so let's call that. So it's 4-1 for Caleb Williams would be your top guy. So this guy Jordan Travis is 12-1 odds.
I don't. What did Florida State do last year to be getting such love?
I can give you his statistics if
Let's
you want
do
the
it.
statistics. Let's make
Here
it
we
happen.
go. Here you go. Hold on. Aaron says if it's plus 1,200, that means if you win 1,200, if you bet 100. So
that's what I thought. That's what I
there
thought.
You go.
Originally, I thought it was 10. That seems like too much because that would be Vegas giving away a lot of money if people bet on that guy.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
Jordan Travis, 64 completion percentage, 64 exactly. 3,214 yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions last season. He's your number 5 for the Heisman hopefuls.
It's so easy to put up those kind of numbers when you play in such a crap conference. And
Can I give you number 6? Can I give you number 6? Because this is really going to upset you. I just want to give you number 6 just because of who it is. You're not going to know who it is. I'm going to give you the name.
It's not Caleb Klubnik.
No, he's number. I didn't number him, which is pretty stupid. I think at this point.
It's all good.
6, 7. He's number 8.
Who's the number 8 odds-on favorite to win the Heisman?
Cade Klubnik is number.
Okay. So who's number 6?
Ewers is number 7. Now, I want to give you number 6 because number 6, he's only in the running because of who he plays for.
Is it the quarterback for Georgia?
Correct.
Shut up.
That's correct.
I don't even know his name. I know he backed up.
His name is Brock Vandegrift.
He looks like he's 16 years old.
He's never completed a pass in college football, and he's only attempted 3. He is,
and he's
16-1.
I'm gonna tell you right now, this might be the hottest take that I've made, and I've said some stuff about Hayden Hurst on this show that is questionable.
Yeah, really. Now after we've seen what Bryce Young looks like in preseason,
I could either look really smart after saying this, or I'll look really dumb at the end of the season because a lot of people are predicting Georgia to go back to the playoff, run the table, yada yada yada. Georgia will lose at least 2 games this year. You know the reason why they'll lose at least 2 games this year? Mike Bobo. That guy had Matthew Stafford, Sean Moreno, AJ Green, all the guys on offense that had very successful NFL careers. And now he inherits another just golden cupboard, and he's going to fall flat on his face yet again.
Wait, 13th? Yeah, see, that would be different. So this came straight off of FanDuel.
So Aaron comes back in the chat. Beck is going to be the starter for Georgia.
Yeah, not listed.
So they announced a couple days ago. I know this guy looks like he's 16. Like, and I don't say this to be ugly. He looks young. He doesn't look like the quarterback for the number 1 team in the country. Yeah. Honestly, it's astounding to me. I say it's astounding. It doesn't surprise me considering where Georgia is ranked and where they have been the 2-time defending national champions. But their entire defense is now in Philadelphia. Their starting quarterback is now over in the Los Angeles Rams as the backup to another former Georgia quarterback that I just mentioned in Matthew Stafford. So, yeah, I'm telling you right now, he's not going to win the Heisman, and Georgia's not going to run the table. Georgia might not win the SEC East this year. Like, that's how confident I am that Georgia's going to fall on their face. Okay.
Alabama's another one that's got a really odd quarterback situation because their star quarterback, who took all of their snaps last year for whatever reason, is now gone. They have a guy, Ty Simpson, I believe is what they're listing. He's number 13 at Alabama, 25-1. He has 35 yards passing.
That's a little less surprising than
Sam Hartman, Notre Dame.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So Beck got Mr. Football for Florida High School. I don't think he's going to be the starter this year in Georgia. But Sam Hartman, where does he fall on the list?
Sam Hartman is sitting at number 15, 30-1.
I like him more than I like
Forest last year.
Yeah,
and he had 3,700 yards, 38 touchdowns, 12 interceptions.
I think with him playing for Notre Dame, I think they knock off Clemson this year. That's again. I don't know what he's asking if I want to bet. Plus 1,200.
Probably the Beck's going to be the starter.
Nevertheless, all right. Let's get back to it. I don't want to get off too much off track here. Who's number 4 on the list for Heisman?
Number
Heisman
4
favorites?
All right, Bo Nix, quarterback of Oregon.
You got to be kidding me.
No. Remember him at Auburn?
Oh, he was garbage at Oregon.
Actually, not too bad. It's
about
the
Carson
stat
Beck.
line reads a whole lot better. So 71.9% completion percentage, 3,592 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Really didn't look all that bad. Is that Mario Cristobal that's still up there? Is that who's up there?
You know what the issue is? I think, matter of fact, it is Carson Beck that's going to be the starter. So I don't know who it is that they've got that list.
Yeah, Brock Vandegrift was listed on FanDuel's the odds for each starter.
Well, that's whoever made that list. Yeah, whoever made that list has got to update it because Carson Beck, Aaron's right. He is
as a
going
freshman
to be the starter. Yeah, they've got him. I'm telling you right now, on 24/7 Sports.
That might be why they don't have him on the list because nobody believes a freshman's going to finish the season in the SEC. That's Carson like you Beck thinking that
is a dog.
Hayden Hurst can have 90 receptions.
Nevertheless, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah, listen, Bo Nix. Here's the knock on Bo Nix. First of all, he looked terrible at Auburn. But
he looked terrible. He was terrible at Auburn.
He was terrible at Auburn. And then last year in game number, I forgot who Oregon played, but they got blown out in the first game of the season last year. And Bo Nix looked terrible. It was because they played a good team. It might have been Alabama or Texas or somebody.
It was Georgia. Then they lost like 17-3.
Well, Bo Nix, that's right, because everybody's like, oh, look, Bo Nix is going to come from Oregon and beat Georgia, and he didn't do that. But he looked terrible. And then when he got to play the rest of the crappy Pac-12, he was able to put up some decent stats. I digress.
Wait, the crappy Pac-12 has the number 3 guy as well. As crappy as they are, Ryan.
Well, Aaron wants to make sure we know that he's doing all this without Google. So who's number 3? It's not Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has got to be the odds-on favorite.
No, actually, believe it or not, the crappy Pac-12 takes up 3 of the top 5 spots.
Who's number 3?
You said it. I didn't say it.
Yeah, who's number 3?
Number 3, Michael Penix Jr., quarterback, University of Washington. 65.3 completion percentage, 4,641 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions last season. That was almost good enough to win the Heisman last season.
That's because he doesn't play anybody. I mean, the fact. Here's the deal. Washington made
the playoff. They gave the Heisman to somebody in the Pac-12 last season,
which doesn't. Yeah, they were also competing for a playoff spot. Washington actually made the playoff, so I understand that concept.
Explain to me. Okay, so we've been talking for a couple weeks about. Obviously, we talked about conference realignment, and if the ACC's in trouble, yes. The Pac-12 clearly in trouble, yes.
The Pac-12's dead.
All of the odds makers have either an ACC team or an ACC player or a Pac-12 player in the top 5. Are the odds makers on this list, which has Vandegrift at 6?
I'm assuming they're all offensive players because it's really hard.
They're all offensive players.
It's because of the competition.
Second is Drake May, quarterback, North Carolina.
That's great because he's gonna get knocked out the Heisman race in week 1.
His stats last year, he had 4,321 yards passing. 4,321. Well done, Drake.
I want to see, and they still couldn't win their division in the ACC.
38 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Caleb Williams won it with 4,537 yards passing, 42 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Now, of course, they do run. All of these guys run, especially Caleb Williams. He likes to run. So I didn't include those statistics, but just for the most part, all of these guys have some rushing statistics. It's not their passing statistics, at least the top 3, are very comparable.
Well, again, it's these guys have more of a leg up because of what they did last year, but it's not unheard of for somebody to come out of the blue and win the Heisman. Now, before we take our first break, Aaron wants to know if we can talk about how the Big Ten better get rid of the divisions, especially if Clemson and Florida State go there. We've talked at nauseum on this show about how the Big Ten is too big for their britches. They have expanded and almost single-handedly killed the Pac-12. I don't know how you do divisions outside of having the old Pac-12 as a division in and of itself. What do you see happening, especially if they add Florida State and Clemson? Do they get rid of the divisions? Do they go to a pod form? Like, what is the future of the Big Ten hold if they were able to snag Clemson and Florida State?
It's a disaster. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to see what these poor kids have to go through if you're an East Coast team and have to play on the West Coast. How do you do that?
How do you feel about, like, because a lot of basketball conferences, I mean, most conferences in college basketball, you have a regular season conference champion, right? There's no divisions. You play and top of that division wins the regular season. Are we headed that direction somewhere like the Big Ten or the SEC with
You know,
never-ending expansion?
one of the best arguments that I've heard about this is all we talk about is football. Of course we do. It's a football podcast, and that's what we're concerned about. But what about the water polo team? What about the, you know, the lacrosse team that
They're
doesn't get to
they're funded
charter
by the
planes?
they're funded by the
They're
football
funded
team
by
who's getting
but
more
they don't
money
get
than
to
going by
charter
going to the
planes.
Big
These poor
Ten.
kids have to fly coach on United everywhere,
Ooh, I don't wish that on anybody.
right?
I do not wish
this is a
on-
disaster for everybody that's not on a football team. It's a terrible, terrible idea. And
Would you? No, go ahead. Sorry.
I just think it's horrible. I think it's horrible they're going to do this to all these college kids. It is horrible. The idea to go to college is to get an education. They have destroyed what like the ability for these kids are being traveling so many more hours for the kids at Rutgers to play, USC and UCLA. It's terrible. It's terrible. These old men that are so greedy and they've destroyed lives. It's bad. I don't, maybe not lives. That's a little harsh. But
Yeah,
I think it's going to make it very difficult for a lot of these kids. The baseball teams. These baseball teams are huge. They're not getting chartered airplanes. They do that for the football team. They don't do that for the baseball team. They're going to have to travel out west for 8 hours to 10 hours on a flight, or with layover, and it's going to be horrible.
Aaron agrees. Conferences need to be based off geological. I'm sure he meant geographical area. Geological. We're talking rocks here.
Geographical. The guys in the high parts need to not play the guys in the low parts.
Well, as we've been talking college football a good bit tonight,
with our NFL jerseys on,
we are in week 0. We get Notre Dame and Navy
and Sam Hartman led Notre Dame
playing in Dublin, Ireland Saturday. So probably going to be a fun game to watch. And then next week,
what would be good with that, Ryan? If we had a time. Or we could just watch TV all day Saturday.
I believe it's 7:30. It's a 7:30 kickoff. Is that right?
Is that AM?
7:30. Come on, man. 7:30 p.m.
Well, that can't be a 7:30 p.m. on Ireland. Ireland's like 5 hours ahead, so 7:30 p.m. If it was a 7:30 kickoff in Ireland, it'd be about 2:30 our time.
You gonna make me do this, Bill? You go.
Tara, NFL, please.
Yeah,
we're okay with that.
Tara's done with the college football talk.
We still have 2 weeks for that.
As I pull up, Notre Dame Navy plays in Dublin, Ireland, 2:30 in the afternoon, Saturday, August 26th. The rest of the slate: UTEP at Jacksonville State, Ohio, San Diego State, UMass, New Mexico State, Hawaii at Vanderbilt. That's the 7:30 kickoff game Saturday night. San Jose State at number 6, Southern Cal at 8 p.m. And then Florida International, Louisiana Tech. That is your week 0.
Is Hawaii at Vanderbilt going to be televised?
Yeah, it'll be on TV.
The construction zone is going to be televised?
Well, listen, that's true. It will be televised.
Finish that stadium.
It won't be finished till after the end of the season. Let's take a break and get into the NFL, shall we? And our first sponsor here, he's been all over the chat tonight, and that's Carolina Business Equipment with offices in Charleston, Greenville, Columbia, and Florence. Carolina Business Equipment can supply your copiers, computers, and printers anywhere in the state of South Carolina. Call my best friend, Aaron Thompson, at 843-452-8761 for a quote today, and make sure you tell him that Ryan from Tap House and Touchdown sent you. Carolina Business Equipment. You worry about your business. Let us handle your technology. I hope I made Aaron proud with that read.
That was a pretty good one. I give it a 7.5.
Aaron wants to know
the landing like normal.
It's okay. Aaron wants to know Lions win the Super Bowl over Miami. Austin's in the chat now too. That's Aaron's cousin. Says Vandy has a max capacity about 20,000 this year because of their renovations.
Whoops.
We got
anybody at that stadium that has an education? I mean, that was ridiculous. What a terrible idea.
We've got
that done in the offseason.
Yeah, there's other. I mean, I remember Citadel a few years ago tore down the entire half of their stadium to rebuild midseason. We got some other comments in here. We're gonna run through real quick. Tara saying go Dolphins. Travis Williams in the chat. Look at Travis. Hey, Travis.
What's up, Travis?
Go Chanticleer is talking. That's Coastal Carolina.
Still have what's his name at quarterback too.
Yep, Aaron loved.
He's been there for like 7 or 8 years, I think.
Yep, and Aaron thinks they need to put Vandy in the SoCon at least for this year. I wouldn't listen. No, I need him to stay in the SEC for next season because that's one of the teams that we get on the non-schedule season.
That you can beat is what you wanted to say.
Of course, that's what I meant to say.
Oh,
I'll never.
I think you should put a hundy down on your boy Rattler. I say why not? To finish off that whole like everything we went over. I think you should, because come on, man, he's 8,000, well, plus 8,000, and he had decent stats last year. He had one of those years that if he had, it could be explosive.
Maybe I'll do it. Aaron thinks that Citadel could wax Vanderbilt under Maurice Drayton, and Travis mentions the name Grayson McCall.
Yeah, he's been there at least, I think, since I graduated high school. He's been at Coastal Carolina.
Well, let's move on to the NFL, shall we? We want to make Miss Tara happy, and listen. There's one last week of preseason football. We are in preseason week 3. Aaron Rodgers is said to be playing in this week for the New York Jets, his first preseason game in years. I'm not sure if it needs to be mentioned, because we're at the season now. We're gonna have to start.
Oh, we're not allowed to call him that anymore. Okay.
Listen. He's on a team now. He's practicing. He's playing. We can go back to calling him his
not said. I thought it wasn't it?
Yeah. Eventually, it was until it wasn't. Okay. So, I guess maybe it should be mentioned that Baltimore finally had their preseason winning streak snapped after 6-7 years. They lost to Washington. Yeah,
2015
so
was the last time
years,
they lost, I think, to Atlanta.
And they lost to Washington on Monday night with a last-second field goal. Austin wants to know, I'm not going to put the chat up here, where this is a family show, Austin, I'm kidding. The BS fine for a perfectly legal tackle, talking about Aaron Rodgers, I'm assuming. You might have to give me I remember what you're talking about, but I can't put it in.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, preseason week 3, I got into a really heated discussion this week on my Panther show, The Cat Cave, about the necessity for players to play in week 3, especially players who are trying to get some momentum under their belt, get some experience, some new guys on new teams, new faces, new places, draft picks. Bill, let's go through the division by division here. We could just do conference by conference if you want to do that instead. Who needs to show the most this week in preseason? Like of all that we've seen in the preseason, again, it's been very well documented by players, fans, all the same, that the preseason doesn't really matter. I've gone on record to say that the 0-16 Detroit Lions were 4-0 in the preseason that year. But my argument with Michael Davis this week on the Cat Cave was that someone like the Carolina Panthers, who have not been able to put offense together in the preseason.
Oh, I like this argument, by the way. I it's going to be bad because I agreed with you.
Well, I'm glad you did, so I can bring it to everyone else listening. Whether it was Bryce Young or Matt Corral, the Carolina Panthers have not moved the ball in offense this preseason.
No.
They have gotten pressured. I believe Matt Corral got sacked 4 times. Bryce Young got sacked in their first game. Matt Corral took another sack last week. They have not been able to get momentum going on offense. So my argument in the Cat Cave was that the Carolina Panthers starters need to play at least a half of football. And if they can't find the end zone, if they can't get on the opposing side of the 50-yard line, they need to play until they do. Because right now, I don't care who you are. And the argument, and we'll get to in a second, is well, what if he gets hurt in preseason? Okay. Would you rather see your starting quarterback, your future franchise quarterback, get hurt in the final week of the preseason by a bunch of backups? Or would you rather see him get hurt in the first quarter of week 1 by a bunch of starters? It's going to happen regardless. We got a couple people in the chat already saying that preseason means nothing.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't. It's not that we don't agree.
Austin's got me cracking up in the chat. I'll put it up here for a second. I'm not going to read it. If you're watching the video or watching the live chat, you get to see it. But he's just he's coming in to troll the show here. At the end of the day, there are players on teams. I'm looking at C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, who's not supposed to be playing this week, Bryce Young. I'm looking at guys like Derek Carr in New Orleans, Jimmy Garoppolo in Vegas, Sam Bradford was named the starting. So it was the Sam Bradford.
What
we talked about
coming out of retirement? Was like 47 years old? Like,
why? I always get the names Baker Mayfield and Sam Bradford.
Close.
They remind me of the
same.
They're
so close.
They both played quarterback at Oklahoma. They both won Heisman's at Oklahoma, and they both were bitter disappointments in the NFL.
Okay, yeah.
So, so you've got Baker Mayfield named the starter in Tampa Bay. You've got to let these guys get some experience in the preseason, or they're going to go into week 1 and they're going to look like absolute dog crap. Bill, you said you agree.
I do. I really, you guys were talking about the Carolina Panthers on the Cat Cave. And,
yep.
well, I was going to say it. Calm down.
Sorry.
Jeez. Now you guys were talking about the Carolina Panthers, and I think that's the reality. Is you're right. They don't have any offensive continuity right now with that team. And how do you get it? You don't. Obviously, they're not getting it in practice. So yes, you need to get on the field, make it happen, make some plays. If you get injured, yeah, that's bad. But for them, every game means something right now. It's not that the score means anything, but they stink. So they need to figure out how to not stink. And if they think they have potential on the field, which they think they do with Bryce Young, then they need to let him play to maximize that potential. He needs to be out there as often as possible. Losing games doesn't help that guy right now. So he just needs to be out there and play. Just make it happen. Like, you got to figure it out.
Aaron wants to know who we think the biggest bust rookie starter is. Of the big 3 names that we've talked about: Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Anthony Richardson. He thinks that it's going to be C.J. Stroud.
I agree.
Let's see. We got some more chats coming in strong.
In the preseason, I think C.J. Stroud out of the 3 of them. I haven't watched a lot of Anthony Richardson, and I probably will when the season starts. But I think his legs are going to help him a lot, and the fact that he is just a massive dude.
Yeah.
So he will Justin Fields himself into at least decent statistics where people will feel like, well, they made a good choice. He'll never figure out how to throw the ball. Lamar Jackson still can't throw the ball, and he's a better passer in college than Anthony Richardson hoped to be. So that's not going to happen. But C.J. Stroud, I was actually really excited about him coming in, but he's looked terrible. So, yeah, I think he's going to be the worst. Yeah.
I'm with you. Travis thinks that the Panthers are going to stink regardless, I believe.
They are. They are. They're going to be worse than I thought. They are. Their offensive line is horrific. It's really, really bad.
The offensive line is got something to show. So I think we can agree that the new faces and new places need to come and play the preseason this week just to show that they can do some stuff on the field against real live competition, so that they have some momentum
in there too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes,
Deshaun Watson needs to get on the field and play a half of the Browns.
That's the guy I would definitely want to see on the field more often, because that guy was on his way to becoming an elite passer, just quarterback there when he was in Houston. The 1 year they go 4-12, and he had insane stats, and then everybody went nuts over the guy when he ended up getting suspended from the NFL. But he got a huge contract in Cleveland. Cleveland did Brown things, and he needs to prove it. It needs to happen. And I think put him on the field this week and continue to play him until he figures that out.
Listen, I'm with you, man. Deshaun Watson, he was successful. The year that they went 4-12, Watson didn't play. Okay, that was the year that massage parlors got in the way of Deshaun Watson.
Did you ever? I mean, that's that towel trick, right? We talked about the towel trick. We need to figure that out. Make it happen.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Nevertheless,
to put a towel over the ball apparently because it's not working out for him. That was his best move, and we need to bring it to the football field.
Well, we've talked about all the guys and all the players that really need to get on the field to show that they can do something. We've already seen some injuries, and I can't think of his first name. Smith and Jigba from Seattle. Jackson Smith and Jigba from Seattle. The rookie wide receiver broke his hand. He's gonna have surgery. They're thinking that he's going to be ready for the regular season, but it's still going to be a setback. We've seen some other players go down. We think guys like Tim Patrick, who was the wide receiver. There was another wide receiver a few weeks. Oh, well, Jameson Williams is a prime example of a guy who can't stay healthy. Now he's going to be suspended for 6 weeks anyway. But there was another guy that was carted off the field. We've seen some injuries in the preseason, right? Having said all the players that need to play, because it's been in the chat. A couple people say the preseason means nothing. Austin came in and said that he's a big time player. There's no chance he's playing in the preseason game. So obviously that means Aaron Rodgers isn't big time, and I agree. Okay. Who has the least to gain by playing in the preseason this week?
Entrenched starting quarterbacks. There's no reason for them to play this week, especially if you're a good entrenched starting quarterback. There's no if you can put up numbers. Patrick Mahomes has no business hitting the field this week in preseason. Joe Burrow is injured, but would have no business. Justin Herbert has no business hitting the field. Tua Tagovailoa has no business hitting the field this week in preseason. There's just no reason to do it. Don't make him get out there. Just keep him healthy. These are the guys that are going to win games. Bryce Young is not going to win week 1. It's not happening. It's not happening. He's probably not going to complete 50% of his passes.
They're
If he
playing
does,
Desmond Ridder and the Falcons. Yes, they're going to beat the Falcons week 1.
They might. Okay. That's going to be a good toilet bowl, but it's because both teams are bad. It's not because they deserve to win a football game. It's not going to happen.
Travis comes in. I'm guessing that's Kirk Cousins, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. None of them need to play.
Well, Joe's not going to play till week 1, hopefully, if even that. So
I'm gonna throw some names at you then, Bill. Brock Purdy.
Should he play?
Yeah. He's coming off an elbow injury. He's got to get the reps back.
He had a really good. The one series that he was in last week was really good. I think he completed all but one of his passes. It was like he went like 6 for 7.
Baker Mayfield.
Yes.
Daniel Jones.
No.
This is a guy who's
because Daniel Jones has already hit his ceiling. There's not going to. There's.
Well,
what is he going to do?
I love to transition to this because this is a very polarizing figure, and there's questions about whether or not he's going to be the starting quarterback a year from now. Dak Prescott. He's been terrible in practice. He's turning the ball all over the place in preseason camp. Should Dak Prescott get some reps here in the preseason? That's a legit question. I'm not trolling here.
No.
You don't think he plays?
No. What is he, a 4-year quarterback? I don't even know.
Who? Okay, we're looking at Tennessee. Who should get more reps? Malik Willis or Will Levis?
That's a good question. I think you should split them down the middle.
Yeah, I think one plays the first half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Travis thinks that Dak Prescott's hit his ceiling too. So we'll.
Yes. You're seeing what you're getting out of Dak Prescott, but he's not a bad quarterback. Put some players around him. You could actually win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. Flacco did it.
I'm trying to think of some of the other quarterbacks because
Trent Dilfer did it, and he's nowhere near as good as Dak Prescott was or is.
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, put him on the field. Yes, he's still developing. I think yes. If you're still developing a quarterback, then yeah, I think they need to be on the field.
Aaron wants to know if. Sorry, go ahead. Aaron wants to know if DeAndre Hopkins plays in Week 1 for the Tennessee Titans.
Doesn't matter. I don't care.
The wide receivers go to die in Tennessee. We got a comment. So he wants to know if he plays in the last. I don't think he does. Austin comes back in preseason.
Is DeAndre hurt? I haven't read anything about DeAndre being hurt.
No, they want to save him for the regular season because they're going to.
Oh yeah, then he plays. Does he play this week? No. Yeah, they'll play. Yeah, it's DeAndre. A lot of people think DeAndre Hopkins is good. Can he beat a corner now? I don't know. We'll see.
So Austin comes in. Preseason is 100% about extra revenue. Each team has cross-team practices and camps. They were scrimmage. Where they scrimmage. Head coaches are letting assistant coaches be the head coach. That tells you how important these games are. I understand that, but I think the argument we're making, I think we're agreeing with you that guys like Rodgers, who's going to play, who hasn't played yet for the Jets, but other incumbent starters like the Patrick Mahomes, the Joe Burrows, Ryan Tannehills, the Dak Prescotts.
There's no Y in Tannehill.
I'm going to call him Tannehill because I'm from the South and that's what I do is Ryan Tannehill. Nevertheless, I think we're in agreement that some of these guys need to sit, but there is value to some of them play.
Obviously, there's a lot of value to the guys that are trying to make a name. You say that it's about revenue, Austin, and I don't disagree with that because you're putting butts in the seats and there's TV revenue for preseason games as well. But I think for some of the players that are maybe not in the third preseason game, but throughout the preseason, guys are still kind of on the border, the borderline. If somebody can blow up in the final preseason game, pick off 2 passes, he might win himself a roster spot. He might. It might not be, if it's close. So I don't think it's all about just TV revenue and making a little bit of money, but I think these guys still, it means a lot to them, even to score. I mean, if you were on a roster for the third preseason game, you get to score a touchdown or 2. You can tell your kids about that, man. That's pretty special. I was on a roster in the preseason. I scored an NFL touchdown. I think that's kind of a big deal. I think it's fun to watch the players.
I mean, years ago, week 4 of the preseason was the final dress rehearsal, and a lot of starters played the majority of a week 4 preseason game.
Was that? No, last season we didn't have. That was 2 years ago. So it wasn't week 4. They always use week 3 as the dress rehearsal. The last week they were saving their butts. They were just because it was the last cut was about to happen. They always use week 3. So I'm surprised that like last week they used more of a dress rehearsal. And then you've got other teams, very odd. Like you had some teams like last week, Tua played, right? It was his first game since he, banged his head against Green Bay on Christmas. And what a present to have Tua back on the field.
No kidding.
But he played. That was their sort of dress rehearsal for that team. This week you've got Aaron Rodgers playing, so that's their dress rehearsal for the Jets. I find it odd how they're now mixing it up. It's not as specific as it used to be, where the third game was always the dress rehearsal, and the fourth game you were just saving guys. It's different now. It's and this extra week of rest, so strange. What do we do?
Yeah.
Like, what do we do? You get all this momentum, like woohoo, season, and then nothing.
They get a bye week before the season even
Yeah.
starts. Like, I think I know the answer to this, especially from a lot of the comments in the chat. But I'm assuming that you're saying the risk of injury does not outweigh the reward of creating some momentum heading into the regular season, especially with some of these rookies and young players that
Depends on the
need.
player.
So yeah, so I think that pretty much answers the question.
And I think Bryce Young needs to be on the field. If you want to go down to that, like the rookie developing players, especially a quarterback that you don't want to get hit. Now, if he starts getting blasted, like if there's just too much pressure, get him off. There's
Yeah,
no
you don't.
hope. But if
Yeah.
you're getting protection and he's making bad reads or he's not executing properly, things that keep him out there. But if he's in danger, get him off the field. There's no reason to actually like put him in danger in a preseason.
Is there Aaron says Bryce Young is shorter than he is.
No.
And Aaron's like an inch taller than me, so that's not saying. Listen,
He weighs less than the amount of food I ate for dinner.
With the
That's not true.
having said this, we had quarterback battles really up until last week. Richardson was named the starter in Indianapolis. Baker Mayfield was named the starter in Tampa Bay. There was one other one that was sort of was Washington. They named was it Sam Hart? Not Sam Hartman. He's the quarterback for Wake Forest. Not Wake Forest. Notre Dame. It was the quarterback of North Carolina that's starting in Washington. Sam Howell.
Yeah.
I knew it was Sam
Hartman.
H. Sam something. So Sam Howell was named the starter in Washington.
He looked good on Monday.
Real quick, we got another comment. I haven't read this. Goes under eyes for bags. Oh, sweet, awesome.
Oh my goodness.
He would love to go to bed with Tom Brady.
I have some guys that I know would probably be excited about that. Like,
if you're watching the video,
you
got to see that comment, or if you're watching on Facebook, you get to read the comment. So this last thing we say, we're gonna transition into the end of the show where we talk Homer's Corner. But for guys who have lost the starting jobs, a la Gardner Minshew, a la Kyle Trask, a la the backup at Washington, Jacoby Brissett,
a la Trey Lance.
Trey Lance.
Oh, did you hear that Sam Darnold is now the backup? What?
He got that says all you need to know about the former number 3 overall pick.
They should fire that front office. John Lynch is dumber than a box of rocks. Like, get out of here with this guy.
Except they lucked out with
Brock Purdy.
So let me ask you a question. If you're not starting starters, if Mayfield, Richardson, and Howell do not play, and all of a sudden these backups come out and they just light up scoreboards in week 3 of the preseason, you think there's still no quarterback controversy for those teams?
No, doesn't matter, because you know what everybody will say. Oh, it was against the backups. It was against backups. It was preseason. Didn't count. Didn't matter. Nobody cared. Whatever.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you. Some really good talking.
Coaches, there's way too much ego. There's way too much. Who's the coach? I don't even know who the coach is in Indianapolis. Is it Frank Reich?
No, Frank Reich's in Carolina.
That's right. He's Carolina. Who's in Indianapolis right now? Does anybody know? Exactly. We don't even know. That's how bad that team is. But he's chosen Anthony Richardson to be his quarterback. You think his ego is going to let him walk away from that 2 weeks later? No chance. There's no way.
Let me ask you a serious question, because we've gone on record to say that we think that the front office will be gone in Indianapolis in the next 5 years.
Coming for you, buddy.
Who will get fired first? The coaching staff in Houston or the coaching staff in Indianapolis?
That's a good question. I think it really. I mean, Jeff Saturday didn't do terrible. Yes, he did. He was awful.
He won his first game and didn't win again.
And he got canned, and he's like a legend up there. So Irsay is kind of like Jerry Jones light.
He's this generation's Al Davis, is what he is.
Or he's Jerry Jones. I mean, I like that. So Jerry Jones is the same way. Thinks he knows football and hasn't won a Super Bowl since 1995. You're really good at football there, rich man. Irsay's the same way. So I'm going to go with Indy. So
we have had a lot of really good football talk tonight. We again, college football preseason or week 0,
Week
NFL
0.
preseason. NFL preseason week 3. Next week, we're going to do a deep dive in some more fantasy football talk. We got a little bit more of the show left to do. We got Homer's Corner right around the corner, but let's first talk about our final sponsor and One Stop Repairs. Established in 2008, One Stop Repairs in North Charleston, South Carolina, is your one-stop shop for all your electronic repair needs. Specializing in cell phones, tablets, computers, laptops, and game consoles, One Stop Repairs offers reputable and quality service with the quickest turnaround time and the most competitive prices in the Low Country. You can find them on Google with an exceptional 4.9 star rating or on Facebook by searching for One Stop Repairs. Call Zach for a quote today at 843-343-6310. That's the number 1, One Stop Repairs. If you are just joining us for the first time and we get to talk Homer's Corner, this is my favorite segment of the show.
That's right.
We each get to talk about something that is near and dear to our hearts that we get to be homers about and just kind of go off on a tangent. Apparently there's a debate tonight. Thank you for joining us tonight, Aaron. It's been a blast having you in the chat.
Aaron.
We start off with Banker Bill.
Yeah.
His Homer's
I didn't really
Corner
have anything, Ryan. I don't feel good about anything that's going on with any of my teams. My college team's a disaster. Well, they're not a disaster. They're recruiting well, but they're not going to be here.
I'm surprised you didn't want to talk about the potential of Tyreek Hill being suspended.
Because it's not happening. There's no potential. He slapped a guy in the back of the head. If they suspend him for that, I mean, it's like, what are we, play fighting? Is this the playground? These guys have to be perfect? I don't think so. It's not like he got in a fight. He didn't use profanity. He just like smacked a guy in the back of the head for trying to steal his keys to his boat. Like, come on. Like
that's fair.
Yeah. Ridiculous. If Roger Goodell wants to make an example out of that, I just don't understand what these players are supposed to be. They're not allowed to be human anymore. Let's not let that happen.
Yeah.
I think Jonathan Taylor is pretty exciting with the story that's going on with Jonathan Taylor. And I think it was Rich Eisen. I hate that I watched Rich Eisen today, but I did. He talked about the crazy thing that's happening with Jonathan Taylor. So Jonathan Taylor has now been allowed to seek trades on his own from other teams, and he has to find a trade partner, call the teams and go, "Are you interested in me playing for your team?" And the team go, "Yeah, you're a pretty good guy. Let's get you on the team. Who do I have to talk to?" Talk to Colts management, and now Colts management wants to ask these teams for a first-round package, which if Jonathan Taylor was valued at a first-round package's value, they would have to pay him the money that they refused to pay him. But then they want the other teams to give up that amount for a player that they've already said isn't valuable enough to them. It makes zero sense. The Colts are a crappy franchise led by a crappy owner with crappy people, and that's why they're going to burn with Anthony Richardson. However, Jonathan Taylor would be really cool to see in Miami, brother. Just make that happen. Let's get like a second and third round draft pick, send it to Indianapolis. We'll bring on he ran a 4.39.
You are so greedy, man. You've got like 8 running backs down in
send Mostert. Miami. I drafted Mostert. Send him to Indy. I don't care. I mean, it would be I like Mostert. Send Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson, get rid of him.
I don't think they're going to let
send A-Chain. I don't care if they send A-Chain. Like, he just got drafted, and everybody's really giddy about this guy. He's super fast. Send him to Indianapolis. He's got
except he did bang up his shoulder in the last.
He's okay. They're hoping week 1.
That's good. I mean, he's going to.
Jonathan Taylor. I read a whole thing about. I read a lot about football, Ryan, and I wish I memorized this part. But there was one of the guys that has a lot of connections in the NFL started to contact NFL executives to find out what Jonathan Taylor was worth. Now, remember, the Indianapolis Colts have asked for a first-round package for Jonathan Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Not one of the NFL executives said he was worth a first-round draft pick. Not all of them, and it was a minority of owners. And we're talking like he asked like 15 guys. And not fewer than 50% said that he was worth a second-round draft pick.
What's frustrating is that Indianapolis and Jim Irsay specifically basically came out and took a giant dump on running backs, right? Like that's the reason why Taylor got upset.
They want a first rounder for him. Yeah.
And so they want the value that they don't want to give him.
Right.
Like it makes no sense.
They're speaking out both sides of their mouth. So I hope that kind of comes back to bite them. They don't get anything for him. Jonathan Taylor would probably decide not to play at this point and would tell them that. And then hopefully the cost goes down and he ends up in Miami. That's right.
I think they gave him a deadline of Tuesday of next week.
Tuesday is when the 53-man roster cut down deadline is. He needs to find a trade partner by that 53-man roster cut down so that the Colts know what they'll be getting in return, so they can decide whether or not that person or however many people they would need to cut before they do cut somebody by accident,
Yeah.
thinking he's going to be there, and then that person might get picked off. So
I'm
the Colts are holding the bag, is what they're doing,
yeah.
and they're kind of hosing Jonathan Taylor, to be honest.
I'm rooting for Jonathan Taylor to get what he wants. I'm rooting for him to get out of Indianapolis because the Colts are trash. So I'm right there with you. My Homer's Corner segment has to do, what do you know? South Carolina. It was announced earlier this week that Bill's favorite techno song, Sandstorm, is going to be played live in Gamecock
How do you
Village.
play a techno song live?
You get the DJ
You
Darude
just press
out there.
play. You just press play.
You never seen a DJ with the turntables and stuff like that?
But they're
Like
not really
that-
doing anything. They just like flip a switch and then they just stand there and go. I can do that.
You sound like you're making the comparison that DJs are no better than pro wrestlers. But Darude is coming in and he's going to play.
They had to make the mix.
He's going to play an hour-long concert in Gamecock Village prior to the Kentucky game on November 18th, and he'll serve as a celebrity starter. And if you're not aware what that means, is that before the game, there's always, ever since about 2010, 2011.
Called like the cock walk?
No, they'll have somebody come on the field and they'll start the Gamecock chant in the stadium. It used to just be, there used to just be the cheerleaders would get it started and the fans would do it, but now they get a celebrity starter because you can get former players. Clowney's done it before. I think Alshon's done it before. Darius Rucker's come out and done it before. So he'll come out and he'll get the east side stand saying, game. The other side will say Cox, and it's this whole thing. And so Darude will serve as the celebrity starter on November 18th for the Kentucky game. So I'm excited because Kentucky has always given us a hard time. We were finally able to get that elusive win over Kentucky, albeit without Will Levis last year. But we got to take what you can.
In this room. That's sandstorm mode. Did you see that?
And I was well aware. And yeah, so I'm excited that that sort of thing is what helps get fans even more hyped up and more amped for the game. So we should have a ruckus crowd November 18th for the Kentucky.
Who do you play?
In Columbia. It's Kentucky. It's Kentucky.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it's actually in Kentucky. Okay.
No, it's Kentucky at South Carolina in November.
I'm sorry,
18th
it's Kentucky, but that's November 18th happening in Columbia. Who do you play for your opener?
North Carolina next Saturday in Charlotte.
What time is that?
It's a 7:30 kickoff, I believe.
So it's a night game.
It's a night game. Yeah.
Are you going to that one?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm not going. It's gonna be like 10,000 degrees if it's like this weekend. Actually,
Charlotte might be a little. Yeah, Charlotte might be cooler. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind being there for the Drake May Heisman kickoff season.
He's not. I would love to go watch live as his Heisman hopeful
disaster first week. You can take a loss first week, Ryan. You can take a loss.
Can you take a loss with 4 interceptions and a fumble in the first week?
Is that a prediction? It's like a Hayden Hurst style prediction?
No, that's as Paul Heyman would say, that's not a prediction, that's a spoiler. That's a wrestling reference.
A little foreshadowing. He only threw 7 picks all last season, so you're saying he's going to throw 4 in one game. Okay.
South Carolina led the SEC in takeaways last year.
With Cam Smith, he's gone.
We got good defenders, man. Marcellus Dial. We'll get into that next week on the Homer's Corner.
The Darude, November 18th, doing a spin concert of some kind, spinning the wheels, man, spinning the turntables there in South Carolina. That's actually
Bill would prefer a live.
Nobody knows who Darude is.
Everybody knows who Darude is. South Carolina started the fad of people playing Sandstorm in sporting events.
Nobody plays
Sandstorm. Yes, they do. We got to educate you some more, Bill. Bill, we're up against it, man. This has been awesome. Really, really great football discussion.
Yes.
I can't wait to do another wrestling crossover for this evening. Appreciate you being here and appreciate all the research you did for the Heisman stuff, man. This was fantastic.
Do we feel educated on the Heisman thing? Like, what are we gonna have? Who could win it?
I feel educated in the fact that, yeah, the top 5 are one of those guys are probably going to win it, but at least I'm holding out hope that somebody down the list, maybe an 800 to 1 odd guy can do it. So I'll go put $100 and win 8,000. Yeah. I mean, that would pay off my air conditioning bill from.
It's right. And the scary part It's all quarterbacks, man. There's no like the first running back is like 20th, which is
Yeah.
wild. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm really excited that we're finally getting some real live football this weekend. I hope you all are excited for it too. If you have enjoyed the show, make sure you like and subscribe wherever it is that you're listening, be it the YouTube channel, Facebook.com/tapouts and touchdowns, Twitter @tapouts and teenies. If you want to find the other episodes of the show, you can find it wherever you get your podcast: Google, Spotify, Apple Podcast. PJ Steven and I are talking wrestling every Monday night live. Every Wednesday on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio Network. You can find my show with Michael Davis, The Cat Cave, as part of the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, powered by the Fans First Sports Network. So plenty of content from your guy, Bully Rye, to give you. And I know that if you never get sick of my face, you'll get sick of my voice. So just make sure you come and listen to everything that I'm doing. But thanks everybody who joined in for the live chat. Some newcomers tonight. Travis, Austin came back tonight. Your Uncle Gary, Tara,
Uncle G.
There's your dad was here for a little bit there. Michelle, everybody who came in on the chat, everybody who came and watched the show live with us. PJ Steven was here for a minute as well. So thank you all for joining us, and make sure you catch us live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. For Banker Bill, it's your guy, Bully Rye. We'll see you next week right here on Tap House and Touchdown.